For 30 years, TV taught us dads were funniest when they were, well, kinda useless. Homer forgot things, Peter destroyed things, Al Bundy resented everything. But King of the Hill gave us Hank Hill, a man so committed to doing things correctly that we mistook him for the joke. Most Hank Hill scenes begin with him doing the thing everyone else forgot mattered. Checking the grill, fixing the fence, correcting Bobby's form, mowing the lawn before it becomes a problem. The joke is that he cared too much. But rewatching it as an adult, that joke starts to crack. Because most of adulthood is caring about things before anyone else notices that they're broken. TV comedies trained an entire generation to see fatherhood as a comedy of failure. Hank Hill was the rebuttal nobody clapped for. We thought he was rigid because we were young. But now we can see it clearly. Responsibility without applause. That's what we were watching and didn't know it. This is the story of Hank Hill. Arlen, Texas, late afternoon, the alley behind Rainy Street. 4 guys standing by a fence with beers, somehow giving the whole thing the dignity of a civic institution, as if standing around doing absolutely nothing were a public service. There's Strickland Propane, where the product is sold with the seriousness of a public utility and the passion of a family business. There's Peggy's Kitchen, where confidence enters every conversation, whether anyone invited it or not. There's Bobby's bedroom, full of strange hobbies, comedy props, and interests Hank never quite knows what to do with. And then there's Hank himself, mowing, fixing, checking, maintaining, always slightly ahead of the disaster no one else sees coming. King of the Hill never felt loud. It felt steady, like a neighborhood where nothing enormous happened because somebody was always quietly preventing the enormous thing from happening. What we felt as kids before we had the words for it was this. King of the Hill isn't really a sitcom about Texas. It's a sitcom about a man who believes the highest form of love is making sure nothing breaks. Dale brings paranoia. Bill brings sadness. Boomhauer brings mystery in a language nobody can fully decode. Peggy brings certainty so powerful it should probably require a permit. Bobby brings joy in a shape Hank doesn't always understand. And Hank? Hank is the load-bearing wall. Nobody thanks the wall for standing there. They only notice when it cracks. Arlen works because Hank shows up. At home, Peggy gets to chase every ambition at full volume because Hank is usually making sure the floorboards are holding. In the alley, Bill gets to fall apart because Hank will quietly drive him to the hardware store and not make it into a thing. All of this works because somebody keeps choosing to stay engaged and do the work. Let's name what Hank actually is. He's the maintenance dad. His love language is prevention. He doesn't wait for disaster so he can become the hero. He changes the air filter before the AC gives out. He teaches the rule before the mistake becomes expensive. He fixes the fence before the fence becomes a whole conversation about the fence. Hank Hill isn't emotionally unavailable. He's emotionally subtitled through hardware store behavior. When Hank teaches Bobby to throw a ball, that's affection. When Hank spends an entire Saturday replacing a water heater, that's also affection. It just requires translation. The show makes Hank funny because he treats small responsibilities like sacred duties. Adulthood makes that hit differently because small responsibilities are most of the job. 30-year-olds understand that the person who checks the smoke detector batteries is doing something real. You just didn't have the context at 12. Hank doesn't always know how to celebrate Bobby, so he tries to prepare him. He can't always say what he feels, so he fixes what he can reach. That's not emotional unavailability. That's a man who learned that love means not letting things fall apart on your watch. Season 4, Episode 20, Meet the Propaniacs. As kids, this plays like a Bobby episode. Bobby finds the joke, gets the room laughing, and does the thing Hank never really knows how to do. But rewatch it through Hank, and the scene changes. It becomes a father watching his son turn the family religion into stand-up comedy, and then realizing the joke is also competence. Bobby has found his way into Hank's world, not by becoming Hank, but by performing Hank's world back to him. Propane jokes, grill material, a whole act built out of the thing Hank treats like sacred ground. Bobby's basically a one-man variety show living inside a propane household, and now he's turned the household into the act. The grill extravaganza crowd is restless, the truck is late, angry customers, a room tipping towards disaster, and Bobby steps into it, not because anyone told him to, but because Bobby's instinct, whenever things start getting tense, is to try to make people laugh. He works the crowd with propane material. He keeps them laughing. He stalls. And what makes this scene sneakier is that propane isn't just Hank's job. It's his identity, his profession, and somehow his emotional support system. So Bobby taking that sacred thing and turning it into a bit? Of course Hank doesn't know what to do with it at first. This is Hank Hale watching his son treat propane like show business, which is basically watching someone juggle communion wafers. But then the room changes. The crowd laughs. The anger drops. Bobby keeps them there until the truck arrives, and suddenly, Hank sees what Bobby is doing in terms he understands, because the act has solved the problem. God help me, I love it. Bobby, you're a funny boy. You know, for a man who treats emotional approval like a non-renewable resource, that sentence is enormous. And then Buck puts it in the only language this world fully respects. The point is, you kept them laughing till the truck came. And that's the key. The joke becomes useful. The performance becomes a service. Bobby's gift finally has a category Hank can understand. That's Hank's world. He can't just enjoy the moment has to become functional. But that's also the tenderness. Hank meets Bobby where Bobby is, once there's a category for it. And the scene protects Bobby also. Bobby isn't wrong to want the applause. Bobby's gift is joy, and joy is real. Hank's gift is structure. The scene works because for once, neither of them has to completely surrender the language. Bobby gets the crowd, Hank gets the outcome. And the praise lands because it costs something to give Hank's world without becoming Hank. That's the whole show in 4 minutes. Hank isn't funny because he fails at fatherhood. Hank is funny because he doesn't treat fatherhood casually. One kind of TV dad makes the mess. Hank prevents the mess from becoming an episode. But television trained us to notice the mess more, which makes sense. Failure gives you a scene. A broken kitchen gives you a cutaway. A dad making things worse gives the episode somewhere to go before the commercial hits. But Hank's kind of fatherhood is harder to dramatize because prevention doesn't explode. It just quietly keeps the episode from happening. And that matters. King of the Hill arrived in a TV landscape where TV dads were becoming louder, dumber, and more destructive. The Simpsons had turned fatherly incompetence into genius comedy. Married with Children made resentment the point. Family Guy would soon push the useless dad model even further. Hank came from the same broad ecosystem, but he worked differently. He wasn't funny because the family survived this chaos. He was funny because he was quietly preventing chaos from becoming the family's default setting. Homer can sleep through a shift at the nuclear plant and still make it home for dinner because sitcom gravity always bends to protect the lovable screw-up. Peter can wreck the house and somehow the house emotionally reloads the following week. Al can sit on that couch like a man being held hostage by his own mortgage, and the audience nods because at least he's honest about it. These dads are entertaining because everyone around them absorbs the damage. Their failure is visible. Their failure is the show. Hank is different. Hank would notice the loose outlet before the episode even started. He would fix it, not mention it, and go back outside. Nothing would happen. That's the bit. Nothing happening is the bit. The bumbling dad gets laughs because failure is visible. Hank's competence is invisible because it works. We were trained to mistake uselessness for harmlessness. And harmless is the key word, because TV rarely made the family pay the full bill. As kids, we wanted the loud dad. The funny dad, the chaotic dad. The dad who turned every rule into a joke and every consequence into a punchline. That dad was everywhere. That dad was the template. But as adults, the steady one looks different. You start to notice who refills the tank, who sees the loose board before someone twists an angle, who gets up early, who checks on the neighbor, who does the boring thing before the expensive thing happens. We thought the joke was that Hank cared too much. The real joke was that everyone else had convinced us caring less was normal. That checking out was relatable. That uselessness was endearing as long as you were funny while doing it. Hank was not in on that joke. He never got the memo that fathers were supposed to be disasters. Now, by no means did this mean that Hank was easy to live with. He was rigid. He struggled with Bobby, not because he didn't love Bobby, but because he didn't always know what to do with a kid whose frequency he couldn't quite tune to. He confused emotional openness with weakness. Sometimes his standards became walls. Sometimes he was so busy trying to protect Bobby from embarrassment that he became the embarrassment. The point is not that Hank was flawless. The point is that his flaws were adult flaws, not man-child flaws. He was not a giant child asking his family to survive him. He was a limited man trying to be dependable in any way possible. That is a different kind of flaw. It's the flaw of someone who took the job seriously and sometimes got the execution wrong, not the flaw of someone who handed the job off and made forgetting to try look charming. Hank did not always know how to say love, but he almost always knew how to do it. Most of us don't know our neighbors' names anymore. Hank knew when Dale's roof needed replacing. He fixes Bill's gutters without being asked. He stands in that alley at dusk, beer in hand, present in that very specific way that says, "This street matters. These people matter. This ordinary patch of Texas is worth showing up for, night after night, season after season. No audience, no applause." Responsibility without applause was the whole point. That's why the revival conversation felt different. People weren't just asking whether King of the Hill was still funny. They were asking why Hank suddenly felt so necessary. Because the older the audience gets, the more Hank looks like the kind of steady presence people realize they need. For 30 years, TV taught us dads were funniest when they failed. Hank Hill was funny because he didn't. He was awkward, he was narrow, he was stubborn. He said the wrong thing, he missed the joke, he made propane sound like scripture. But he stayed, he worked, he noticed, he maintained. He protected the small things because he understood something most sitcom dads were too self-absorbed to learn. Small things become big things when nobody takes care of them. Hank Hill didn't need us to think he was cool. He was waiting for us to grow up enough to understand the assignment. He wasn't behind the times, we just weren't old enough yet to understand what he was protecting. The lawn, the fence, the alley, the family. The ordinary things that only look boring when someone else is keeping them from breaking. So if you grew up thinking Hank Hill was boring, maybe that was the point. Sometimes the characters we overlook as kids are the ones we understand most as adults. If this made you see King of the Hill a little differently, like the video, subscribe to our channel Millennial Rewind, and tell me in the comments, who's another TV character we were too young to understand? We'll see you on the next one. Please take care of yourself.